Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are unpacking something that completely, and I mean literally completely, flips the script on what most of us think about mindfulness, spiritual practice, and emotional regulation. You know, we live in this world where being Zen is constantly marketed to us as being entirely devoid of any negative emotions, right? We're taught to just breathe through it, let it all go, and basically never ever raise our voices. But is that actually healthy? Or are we just confusing emotional regulation with emotional suppression? We're going to explore this through a highly unique, really fascinating perspective that totally challenges the modern myth of the perfectly serene, unbothered spiritual master.
So this brings us to a really central question. Can yoga and meditation actually get rid of anger? Now, when you ask this question, you kind of know what the typical expectation is, right? You expect this soft, serene, deeply spiritual answer. We fully expect to be told that if we just meditate long enough or do enough yoga, our anger will simply evaporate into thin air, and we'll turn into this calm, unshakable flower floating above all the frustrations of daily life. We expect the ultimate goal to be the complete and total deletion of anger.
Well, let's dive into this because the answer we are looking at today shatters that expectation entirely. Our source material comes directly from Osman, and he answers that question with a very blunt, incredibly grounded, no. Anger is a normal human emotion. I mean, he doesn't sugarcoat it at all. He doesn't offer some mystical workaround. He states clearly that you literally cannot practice your way out of basic human biology. It's such a refreshing, honest take, honestly. And to really grasp why this perspective is so powerful, we need to understand exactly who is saying it.
To get this perspective, we really need to understand the source. The person delivering this massive reality check is Osman, often known as the Blind Yogi. And guys, he is not a novice. He's a master-level energy healer with over 5 decades, yes, 50 years of continuous, highly rigorous practice. His specialization is actually incredibly intense. He works directly with critical care recovery and terminal illnesses, optimizing the human biofield. And a really crucial piece of context for his teachings is that Osman has been permanently blind since May 2023. But because he had normal eyesight before that, he navigates the world with this deeply unique sensory awareness. He blends absolute spiritual authority with the very raw, highly practical reality of protecting his physical space. He's someone who deeply understands energy, and more importantly, exactly how to protect it.
Before we go any further, it is absolutely vital we cover this mandatory framework. Osman is super strict about this. All of his therapies, protocols, and practices are entirely natural-based. They're designed exclusively to enhance and complement formal medical treatment, not to replace it. If you have any sort of severe pathology or acute medical condition, you must immediately consult with a qualified, licensed medical professional in your area. Yoga and meditation are obviously amazing tools for boosting your immune function and biofield naturally, but they're part of a broader health strategy, right? They are never a substitute for clinical care.
So, let's break down the actual physiological reality of this practice. First off, consider what yoga cannot do. It literally cannot cure you of anger. And why is that? Well, because human beings are sometimes prone to explosive anger due to deep-rooted chemical imbalances, subconscious triggers, or simply because a situation actively, genuinely warrants a strong defense mechanism. But on the flip side, consider what it can do. Yoga and meditation absolutely help reduce stress markers like cortisol. They soothe your nervous system, make you way more centered, and give you this profound awareness of your emotions right as they arise. You don't become some passive robot. Instead, you gain the clarity to stop your anger from controlling you, even when you naturally and rightly experience it.
To really cement this concept, Osman shares a highly specific, super high-stakes story that perfectly illustrates exactly why anger is sometimes 100% required. Picture this setup. Osman is in a dangerous city where the risk of robbery is unfortunately very high. He's completely blind, holding a highly visible white blind stick. And, to top it off, he happens to be carrying a really expensive smartphone, the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Knowing the obvious risks here, he makes a very calculated safety decision. Instead of standing out in public on the street, he goes inside a bank and sits down just to safely use his banking app. He is managing his environment, maintaining his independence, and strictly minding his own business.
But then a bank consultant walks up and offers to help. And this leads to a rapid, textbook escalation of boundaries. First, Osman does what anyone would do. He politely declines. No, thank you. I'm fine. But the consultant insists. So next, Osman has to be firmer. He says, I don't need help. Please respect my privacy. Unbelievably, the consultant just keeps pushing, literally insisting on taking the phone and helping him. By the third time, it's just gone way too far. Finally, Osman raises his voice to forcefully assert his boundaries. He points out a really critical dynamic here. Disabled individuals are not children. They highly value their independence, and doing things on their own is essential for maintaining their sanity and their dignity. When people force unwanted assistance on you, it's not actually helpful, it's patronizing. And when your polite declines are completely ignored, escalating your tone isn't a spiritual failure at all, it's a biological necessity.
And this brings us to the absolute core realization of this whole explainer. Anger is not inherently bad. It just isn't. It is a natural, biological, protective, or defense mechanism. It is absolutely necessary at times to assert your independence, establish firm boundaries, and neutralize external threats. When that consultant blatantly refused to listen to a polite no, Osman's anger flared up exactly as it's supposed to protect his physical space, his property, and his autonomy. Being human means you are going to encounter situations that genuinely warrant anger, and feeling it is just proof that your protective instincts are actually working correctly.
But, and this is a massive but, there's a huge difference between feeling anger and being completely consumed by it. This highlights a really critical emotional divide. On one side, we have losing control. This is when anger spirals into fistfights, violence, and actions you are absolutely going to look back on with deep regret. Osman actually notes that despite being in many violent situations throughout his life, he never lost control in this way. On the other side, though, we see controlled anger. This is the goal right here. It's using highly assertive talk, sometimes matching the volume or the tone of an aggressor just to neutralize them and maintaining your personal boundaries. Osman states incredibly clearly that he has never regretted a single time he used controlled anger to defend himself. Why? Because he remained fully conscious and totally aware throughout the entire experience.
Building on that idea of conscious control, Osman gives us a really practical, systematic playbook for handling patronizing behavior, especially from those people who love to mask their disrespect with polite diplomacy. First up, you have to read the nuance. People can be super crafty with their words, right? Making it seem like they're being sweet and helpful when their true intention is completely condescending. When you spot this, call it out clearly. Just say, "You are patronizing me." If you can physically leave, just walk away. If you are stuck, like say in an office or a shared space, you must demand the person leaves your presence. And hey, if they still refuse to respect your boundaries, do not be afraid to escalate and bring in a higher authority to neutralize the situation. This whole approach is rooted in this incredibly powerful philosophy about just being authentic. As Osman says right here, "I'd rather be honest. I don't like to smile and hold a grudge against them." I mean, think about it. Think about how much energetic bandwidth it takes to pretend you aren't bothered by someone. Smiling to someone's face while secretly holding on to all this resentment, that is incredibly draining to your biofield and your nervous system. Osman argues that it is so much healthier to just be completely honest. Just say, "Honestly, I don't like the way you're speaking to me and I prefer not to deal with you." Sure, it might hurt their feelings in the moment, it might seem a bit harsh, but it clears the air instantly. It protects your internal energy from the slow, exhausting poison of suppressed frustration.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer today, and I want to leave you with a really critical question to chew on. How are you using your own emotional boundaries to protect your energy? Are you out there trying to force yourself to be perfectly calm in situations where a firm vocal defense is actually exactly what's required? Just remember, the goal of inner work isn't to amputate your natural human emotions. It's to master them so they work for you, not against you. Anger is a tool, and when you wield it with awareness and control, it's the exact thing that keeps your energy, your dignity, and your boundaries perfectly intact. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and I really challenge you to reflect on exactly how you'll handle the next cross boundary in your own life.